One of the questions that I get asked is, why do we use Gregorian chant at Mass? And let me just offer you kind of a brief answer to that. There can be a big, long answer, but let's just look at the brief answer. A few things to say. The first is that Gregorian chant is a form of music that actually grew up with the liturgy. So it's not a kind of music that is introduced from the outside. It came up from within it. And so it is particularly adept and works well with the liturgy itself. You can say kind of the liturgy and Gregorian chant kind of grew up together. That's one reason. It's eminently suited for that special kind of worship that we have in the sacred liturgy. And another reason why do we use Gregorian chant? Because it connects us. It connects us with our past. As we know, we call it Gregorian chant because of Pope St. Gregory the Great, but all he did was codify it. So this music that we sing is ancient. And new material is always written, but the base of it is ancient. It goes all the way back into the temple worship, and that it has been passed down to us. So that's another reason why we use Gregorian chant at Mass. Another reason is the thing about chant, and if you've been exposed to it, is that it has a way of there's a spiritual aspect to it. There's a stillness to it. There's a calm and a serenity to it. It helps our soul to open up in prayer. And that may not be evident right away, but if you give yourself over to it, you're going to find that it does this. We even have this from secular sources. People who just like listening to Gregorian chant because it helps them to relax, or helps their anxiety level to go down, or they helps them to fall asleep at night, or things like that. Even people who are secular see the real value of the music. Another reason is that Gregorian chant is actually easier to sing. I didn't think of that at first. I always thought that, oh gosh, only monks and monasteries do this and they have to learn for many, many years how to do it right. And yeah, there's a certain level of singing that they can attain because of their vocation. But actually, Gregorian chant is much easier to sing than a lot of popular music today, or even a lot of the devotional music that we grew up with. And so it invites that greater participation, and I already see it with many at Mass now. You know how we chant the entrance antiphon, and that antiphon changes every week. So it's like, unless you can read music, it's like, wow, that's going to be hard to be a part of that. I'll just participate with my soul. But what I've noticed happening at Mass is that when we get to the Glory Be, because everybody knows what the Glory Be to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, I start hearing it out in the congregation. That now that the choir has given the melody a few times in the chant, well, then we all join in on the Glory Be. Gregorian chant, even though it is a living thing, right? There's more that is written and added to it. Its foundation is very ancient. And scholars will tell us is that Gregorian chant, the music goes all the way back into the temple worship, and that is kind of an amazing thing. So you think about Jesus, think about our Lord, that those melodies that we sing, it's a good chance that He sang them too. In Hebrew, of course, which was the language of worship for the people of Israel. But the melody would have been the same or similar to that. And that makes me feel really close to Jesus. To think that when I'm singing at Mass to Him in worship, that when he walked the earth, He sang that too.
Okay, we got to talk instruments.
Yes.
So what's the basic principle when it comes to what's allowed in the church for worshiping in Mass versus other times?
Yeah.
Right, because as in general, the church has specific rules for Mass, for liturgies, that don't apply for like all of our life.
Right. And like, how do you determine that? You know?
Well, obviously, first one is human voice. That's like the number one, the
Yeah.
main instrument for worship. And like church documents have said that, but also just the tradition of the church all the way back. For a while, it was even a rule that nothing else was allowed, just the
Wow.
voice.
Yeah.
Over the years, of course, different things have happened. Like we were talking in 1903, the piano was banned from use in Mass by the Pope, because at the time that seemed like an obvious thing to say. It was like, well, of course you wouldn't have a piano at Mass, because
How
the piano was
interesting.
always used for the bar, for the music hall, for entertainment. So when you heard piano
Okay.
music, you immediately thought
Okay. Yeah.
bar,
Well,
piano
that makes
hall.
sense then. Yeah.
And this changes over time because different instruments are used, different styles of music are used. But in general, so right now, what do we use in the church? The piano is not banned right now,
Yeah.
as far as I know.
Right, because I don't have the association with the bar. I just think of it as like an elegant classical instrument.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's still not as good as the organ for the main purpose in worship.
Yeah.
Main purpose being helping people sing.
Okay.
And the reason is, a lot of people don't realize this. A piano is a percussion instrument. You hit the key, it starts to fade
Yeah,
right
it starts
away.
getting quiet. Yeah.
The voice doesn't do that. We
No.
are a wind instrument. I sing, the sound keeps going as long as I want.
Yes.
So the piano, in order to support singing, either you play simply and it sounds kind of sparse, or you play lots of, you fill it out a lot, but maybe that's not a style you want to go for always.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is a piano is not, don't take offense, piano fans, I love the piano too, but the piano is not super versatile. It makes one sound. It can make it louder.
Right. It does the
Softer.
piano sound. It will
It
never
does the
sound like
piano
a
sound.
clarinet
Yeah.
or a guitar or yeah.
Let's go over to the organ.
Yeah, great.
In the early days of the church, the organ was actually not something that Christians liked, because the organ in the early days was something the Romans played at the Colosseum while people were
heard
being
that.
killed. So they would play this to cover the screams of the dying. So Christians didn't want that. It took centuries and centuries before the organ started to be popular for Catholic churches. But the reason it was popular is because it's a wind instrument. So if I play the note, it keeps going
It's
as
strong.
long as I want it
Okay.
to. I don't have to play it again and again. It just sings like a human voice.
Yeah.
There's two other things I think that make the organ so good.
Yeah.
And the church has its own teachings on this, but
Okay.
these are just some of my thoughts. Two things. The organ carries a real sense of dignity to it. Like it doesn't sound like goofy music. You can try real hard and make it sound goofy, I guess. The other thing is that the organ is super versatile.
Yeah.
Right now I have it just on a very gentle, a few stops I've selected. To play something very gentle for communion, maybe something really thoughtful.
Yeah.
Or like
That's
Advent
pretty.
or Lent, we try to make it really basic
Yeah.
to show the penitential nature of the season. Or, we can put everything on,
I like that.
right? And just and like an
That makes
Easter
me think
Sunday,
of the angels and the saints
Yeah,
and
right?
the splendor of God.
Yeah, and then we
know?
have everything in between. So, when
Okay.
it's Easter Sunday and we want to blow the roof off, the organ can do that in a way that sounds holy. Because, too, this isn't new. We've been using the organ in the church for centuries and centuries.
Yeah,
It developed along with our own worship.
Yeah, I mean, it's, for me, the sound of the organ as an instrument is like the most closely associated for me with church.
Right.
Because I don't hear it anywhere else,
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I hear the organ and I think of church.
Yeah. Now, there's other instruments, of course. There's string instruments, there's brass instruments, and so on.
Yeah.
But we were talking earlier about, for an example,
Yeah.
take an electric guitar. An electric guitar, I think, is a great example for an instrument that definitely does not make you think of church,
No.
right?
It's very cool.
Yeah. Who knows what things are going to happen and what instruments will be used
Right,
and
like
change
2 or
over
3
the
centuries from now,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for now, what we want to do is choose the right instruments according to what the church gives us for guidance, and according to what is going to like help people sing. 'Cause that's always the number one thing, to help people join in, and what gives the best sense of the sacred, I think.
Right, yeah. That's so important for me because it's like I have such a need to encounter God and to feel like that need is taken really seriously. And so I really appreciate when Mass is kind of on the more solemn end of things, because it helps me to stay in the knowledge of like there's something really significant going on.
Let me tell you a story. When I was about a year before I converted, I was talking with some Catholic friends, and I said, if you really believe that, you know, the moment of consecration, Jesus himself is on the altar, if you really believe that, why don't you have like a rock band start playing and everyone's jumping up and down?
Right.
And they said, like right now, I can't believe I said that. They were like, Alex, you don't get it. Some things are too holy for just being loud.
Oh, yeah, oh, totally, yeah.
And yeah, so that's something I've come to understand. Like, there's different ways of showing joy, and different ways of showing solemnity, and there's a real richness to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying at all that a Catholic shouldn't go and hear a rock show, because they can be really, really fun.
Oh, yeah.
And great feelings, right? And that's not a bad thing. But there's different expressions through music for different parts of life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So speaking from my own experience, there's a gap in my life between the high point of going to Mass and just the ordinariness of daily life. I mean, I'll pray grace before meals, but all of those moments that are part of living life, of my living life, of changing diapers, doing chores, you know, all of these different things can just feel so mundane and disconnected from God and from the beautiful high point of Mass. There's a need there. There's a need for a bridge, and that bridge is devotional music. And I love devotional music. One of my favorites is Center of My Life. This one, probably know it. Oh Lord, you are the center of my life. I will always praise you. I will always serve you. I will always keep you in my sight. I love that one. I also love Gift of Finest Wheat and How Great Thou Art. Oh my gosh, I make myself cry singing that one. And I find that when my son goes down for bed, I will break out my 3-ring binders and play these songs for myself. And it serves a need. It serves the need to not only prepare myself for Mass on Sunday and having God be a part of my whole life, but just every day I need a touching point to Christians throughout the centuries, to just inviting Jesus into my heart and into my life every day, and having that peace that he brings. And we get to do this as a community in so many ways, like through the healing holy hours, First Thursday healing holy hours that we do devotional music for that. And it serves such a beautiful, it's just so beautiful to sing together as a community. It's so healing, it's so bonding. And in addition to that, I've started bringing my guitar to Mom's group, and a lot of mommies have found that has been really intimate and really helpful. And so just speaking for myself, devotional music has been so helpful for me to just connect and weave God throughout the whole week.
So I think there's an invitation here, an invitation to open our hearts to Catholic music, to the breadth, the height, the depth of it. That includes Gregorian chant, chanting in Latin, chanting in English, sacred polyphony, and of devotional music. That we would open our heart to it, and to let it inform us, and to see in it that it's what might be unfamiliar. It's not as big of a jump as we might think. there's something innate in us that's made for this, right? Made to sing and made to sing this, and it might be a little bit unfamiliar, but with our Catholic faith and prayer, we'll attune to it, and so to participate in the singing. I think that's an important thing, and that was the Second Vatican Council, but that's also St. Pius X. That St. Pius X, he decades before the Second Vatican Council, he envisioned parishes chanting, which would be kind of a beautiful thing when you think about it. That they would be formed and know how to do that. Not that we sing on everything, right? And Alex has done a good job about showing us of these different times when we sing and when the choir may sing a little bit more. But whenever music is going on, that our heart is open and we're participating in it. Even if we're not actually singing, that we're praying along with it. And that we also do our share of the singing. And
so why sing? This goes back to the very beginning. This goes back to who we are and who God is. So in the second account of Genesis, in chapter 2 of Genesis, God says, "Let us make man in our image and our likeness," meaning God as a community of persons, because that's plural language. And then even later, God confirms that even more. It's not good for man to be alone. I need to make a helper. I need to make someone for him. So our very nature is based on a need for communion, a community, relationship with another, with God, with each other. And that's embodied in singing. It's embodied in language. There's no point to use words to convey an idea or a need unless we're talking to someone, unless we're reaching out to someone, be that God or your spouse or anyone. So it's so important to remember, because God has done so much for us throughout history. And I think it's easy speaking for myself, it's really easy to go to Mass and to check out. But the reality is God has made this move. He said, okay, here I am. Here's my body humbled into bread. Where are you? And so we respond as individuals, but also as a community, using words, using language, with our hearts. And that's elevated through song. I mean, you think about the human voice, you think about how intimate that is. It's the same thing that we use to cry, that we use to laugh, that we sing our babies to sleep with. And so it makes sense that we would use that to be incredibly intimate with our Creator.
You'll find that when you try to sing, even if it's not perfect, and none of us are, or maybe feel a little bit self-conscious, is that you're going to find your soul opening and the prayer, a new depth in prayer. Right? This is the Church's thinking on this. There's something in us as human beings that when we sing, something good happens. And we can say that especially in the sacred liturgy. So I do invite you to sing and to participate in all of the aspects of music that we are doing here at the parish, and that for the parts that we're not singing, because it's just like too much. If we're singing like Palestrina in 4 parts, it's like, I don't know that music, but I can sure pray with it. That's what I'm doing by when I'm meditating after Holy Communion. I'm just letting the music help me my heart to soar up to the Lord. That we do that, and we do that together.